Hello everyone, today I want to tell you a story about the moment a polished office stopped pretending. It begins on a gray Monday morning, in a room designed to feel harmless. The kind of room where bad news is delivered with soft voices and neutral walls. Chloe Dubois walked into it still expecting a process. The conference chair gave a small plastic creak as she sat. Overhead, the HVAC hummed with that dry, constant breath every office seemed to share. Across from her, an HR partner named Elaine placed a thin folder on the table and lined it up with exact care. Chloe noticed that first. The neatness of it. The fact that no one had asked about her weekend. Elaine folded her hands. Chloe, this is a difficult conversation. A manager from operations sat beside her, eyes lowered, saying nothing. Chloe felt her shoulders stiffen. Is this about my email? Elaine did not answer right away. That pause told her more than words. Then came the phrase, clipped and bloodless. It was about cultural fit. For a second, Chloe almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. 3 weeks earlier she had sent a formal harassment report. Detailed. Dated. Careful. She had named what Marcus Thornton said, who saw it, how meetings changed after, how staffing decisions bent around his favor. Legal had confirmed receipt. HR had promised a review. No one had asked a single follow-up question. Now Elaine slid the folder forward. Inside were severance terms, benefit states, a badge return checklist. 2 pages. That was all Chloe's years there had become. This decision is final, Elaine said. We don't believe your working style aligns with the company's collaborative culture. Collaborative. Chloe heard the word and felt heat rise up her neck. So this is timing? That's what we're doing? The manager shifted but stayed silent. Elaine's expression tightened into sympathy practiced to the point of insult. Your concerns were noted. Not addressed. Not investigated. Not answered. When Chloe stood, her knees felt unreliable. Defensive anger arrived before grief did. Fine, she thought wildly, maybe this place deserved to lose her. But the thought collapsed as soon as she reached the door. The folder was light in her hand. Her unanswered harassment email burned heavier in her mind. And as the door clicked shut behind her, Chloe understood the timing was not random. In the weeks before she was fired, Chloe still believed in forms, timestamps, and neutral language. She believed if she wrote everything down carefully enough, the company would have to see what happened. That faith embarrassed her later. At the time, it felt adult. She started with dates. A hotel bar after a conference where Marcus Thornton rested a hand on her lower back and left it there too long. A late ride to the parking garage where he joked that ambitious women always figured out who to be nice to. A staffing meeting where he cut off her objection, then smiled and told the room Chloe was still learning how influence works here. None of it looked dramatic on a screen. That was the problem. Each moment could be explained away by someone who wanted it explained away. So she added context. Marcus controlled headcount approvals. Marcus weighed in on promotions outside his department. Marcus had a habit of making women feel singled out, then reminding them he could help their careers. She attached screenshots. She forwarded herself calendar invites. She printed a chain where he moved one candidate forward after telling Chloe her team needed someone more loyal. The printer whirred beside her desk, warm paper sliding out in a neat stack. Around her, the office carried on. Keyboard taps. Low laughter from the sales pod. Marcus crossing the aisle in a navy suit, easy as a man walking through a room built for him. Morning, Chloe, he said, pausing just long enough to make friendliness feel deliberate. She looked up. Morning. He smiled like they shared a private joke. Then he kept moving. That afternoon, she sent the email to HR with the subject line, "Formal Report." Her finger hovered before she clicked. Then the soft ping went out, almost insultingly small. By the next morning, a text buzzed from her friend Nina, "You okay?" Chloe stared at the message, surprised word had traveled that fast. She typed back, "Fine. Just handling something." The HR meeting happened 2 days later in a conference room that smelled faintly of burnt coffee and dry erase marker. Elaine from HR sat across from her with a legal pad and a face arranged into concern. "We take these matters seriously," Elaine said. Chloe nodded and slid over her notes. "His behavior is tied to staffing and promotions. That matters. He has influence over who stays visible here." Elaine glanced down, not up. "We're looking into it." Then silence. A pause long enough to make Chloe hear the vent ticking overhead. Long enough to realize Elaine had given her a sentence designed to end sentences. Chloe left that room hurt, then annoyed at herself for being hurt. She told herself investigations were quiet by nature. Process took time. Process was the point. But by the end of the week, Marcus was still joking in the hallway, still dropping into meetings, still being copied on staffing decisions that should never have touched his inbox. And when Chloe caught one manager watching her with quick, skittish pity before looking away, hope thinned into something colder. Someone knew more than they were saying. By late afternoon, the office always sagged a little. The bright confidence of morning drained out of the glass hallways. Voices dropped. Keyboards softened. Even the air smelled tired, like burnt coffee and carpet warmed all day by hidden vents. Chloe stood outside Daniel Reed's office and told herself she was not there to beg. Daniel managed a neighboring team. He was easy to talk to, older than most of the directors, careful with junior staff, the kind of man people described as decent before they said anything else. He looked up when she tapped the frame. "Hey. You okay?" That almost undid her. She stepped inside and closed the door halfway. Not all the way. She did not want secrecy to feel like guilt. "I need to ask you something." Daniel glanced toward the gap, then back to her. "Sure." Chloe sat without being invited and hated herself for noticing it. "I filed a report 2 weeks ago." His face changed too fast. Not surprise. Recognition. She felt a flare of relief so sharp it was almost joy. "You knew." "I heard there was a complaint." He kept his voice low. "Nothing official. Nothing is happening," Chloe said. "Marcus is still in meetings. He's still touching staffing. He's acting like I'm invisible." Daniel leaned back. His chair gave a small creak. Outside the office, distant chatter drifted past, then an elevator ding. "Chloe. I'm not asking you to investigate. I just need to know if this is normal." Her words came out harder than she meant. "If I'm supposed to sit there while everyone pretends." He rubbed a hand over his mouth. "Off the record?" She nodded. The pause stretched. "False hope has a sound. It is quiet enough for your own pulse to get loud." Daniel exhaled. "Marcus has survived complaints before." The sentence landed without shape at first. Then it spread. "Before," she said. He looked at the desk. "I shouldn't have said that." "How many?" "I don't know." "You do know something." His phone vibrated on the desk. He flipped it over without checking. "You need to be smart now." Chloe laughed once. It was not a happy sound. "Smart meaning quiet?" "That's not what I said. It's what everyone means." Daniel's expression hardened, not cruel, but frightened. Legal gets involved, and everything changes. People stop talking because one wrong sentence turns into exposure. HR will frame this as process. Leadership will call it culture. Marcus knows how to wait people out. Her throat tightened. "So you've all watched this happen. That's unfair." "Is it?" He stood, which somehow made her feel dismissed before he said anything. "I am trying to help you." "No," Chloe said, rising too fast. "You're trying not to be next." That stung him because it was true, or true enough. Daniel picked up his phone at last. A message flashed across his face and was gone. Do not put my name anywhere. Please. There it was. The line. Not help. Containment. Chloe grabbed her notebook, suddenly embarrassed by every hopeful thing she had carried into this room. Forget it. She was at the door when he said, almost to himself, he always keeps it separated. One person at a time. She turned, but Daniel had already retreated behind caution. I said too much. A second later came the soft whoosh of a sent message. He would warn someone, or document the meeting, or both. Chloe knew it in her bones before she knew how to prove it. She walked back into the dimming office with her skin prickling, anger arriving late and messy, dressed up as shame. Anger had arrived late and badly dressed. It followed Chloe out of Daniel's office like something she had forgotten to carry, then blamed herself for dropping. By lunchtime the rain had turned the glass front of the building into a gray mirror, and she was back anyway, wet at the shoulders, telling herself she was being practical. Her framed certificate was still at her desk. A sweater her mother had mailed her was hooked over her chair. Most of all, she wanted copies of the notes she had written by hand before IT locked everything behind passwords and policy. The lobby smelled like damp wool and burned coffee. Footsteps clicked and echoed across the stone floor. Chloe crossed to reception with a canvas tote pressed under one arm and rehearsed calm in her throat. I'm just here to collect personal items, she said. My manager said there'd be a box, or someone could walk me up. The receptionist, a woman Chloe had nodded to for 2 years, did not return the familiarity. She asked for Chloe's badge without looking up. Chloe slid it over. The scanner gave a flat red beep. Of course. The receptionist tried again, then set the badge on the desk as if it might stain her fingers. One moment. She picked up the phone. Spoke too softly to hear. Then came the radio crackle from somewhere behind the wall. Chloe felt heat climb her neck. This was excessive. This was theater. She glanced toward the elevators and saw 2 people from finance waiting there. One looked at her, recognized her, then immediately found something urgent on his phone. A security guard emerged from the corridor near HR. He was broad, polite, and already apologizing with his face. Ms. Dubois, he said, I need you to step away from the desk. I'm not refusing to leave, Chloe said too quickly. Defensive before accused. I came for my things. I understand. Then why are you talking to me like I'm a problem? A few heads turned. The guard lowered his voice. Your access has been terminated. Any materials will be mailed. My notebook is not company property. Her voice rose anyway. Neither is my sweater, or the photo on my desk, or the plant I paid for. The receptionist kept her eyes on the monitor. The finance employees moved away from the elevator and pretended to study a poster about wellness benefits. A woman from marketing actually met Chloe's eyes for a second. Then she looked down. That was the worst part. Not the guard. Not the red light. The looking away. The music inside Chloe's chest cut out. There was only lobby echo, wet shoes, a radio hiss. Silence stretched after each stranger chose not to know her. The guard said, gentler now, please come with me. She laughed once, sharp and wrong. Right. Let's do the full show. He escorted her to the revolving door. No hands on her, which somehow made it worse. Visible. Formal. Clean. Outside, rain tapped the awning in cold little nails. Chloe stood there breathing hard, furious at them, at herself, at the stupid hope that process still had a human face. Chloe. She turned. A former co-worker from operations had slipped out behind her, coat half-buttoned, fear bright in her eyes. She pressed a folded sticky note into Chloe's palm. I can't talk, she whispered. Don't email me. Just talk to Tessa. Then she was gone before Chloe could ask a single question. The sticky note sat on Chloe's kitchen table beside her dead badge and the thin termination folder. Tessa's number was written in tight blocked letters, no last name, no punctuation. Outside, rain dragged down the window in silver threads. Her apartment was dark except for the laptop glow and the stove clock blinking 11:42. Tessa did not say hello when she answered. Who gave you this number? Chloe hesitated, suddenly protective of a woman who had barely risked 2 seconds for her. Someone from Ops. She said not to email. A long pause. Rain ticked at the glass. Then Tessa said, "Good. Don't text either. I can give you 15 minutes. Chloe opened her laptop. Her inbox still held the harassment report she had sent, the one no one had answered except with calendar invites and careful phrases. "I need to know if I'm crazy," she said. "Or if this has happened before." Tessa gave a short laugh with no humor in it. Both can be true. There was a rustle, then the sound of a door closing on Tessa's end. When she spoke again, her voice lowered. "Marcus never does the obvious thing himself. That's the trick. He creates weather. He leans on staffing. He leans on who gets FaceTime. Then HR shows up with concern." Chloe swallowed. "I was fired for cultural fit." "I know." The words hit harder than she expected. "How do you know?" "Because that wording travels." Tessa asked Chloe to check the personal email she had just sent from a burner address. A zip file landed in Chloe's inbox. She clicked it open. SFX, file unzip, 3 PDFs. 2 separation agreements. 1 scanned complaint with names blacked out. The first severance letter used a phrase Chloe had already memorized from her own meeting, concerns regarding alignment with leadership culture. The second, from 2 years earlier, said nearly the same thing. Different employee. Different department. Same cadence. Same soft knife. Chloe read both again, slower this time. "No," she whispered. Then louder, angry because whispering felt weak. That could still be template language. Companies recycle wording. "Keep reading," Tessa said. In the redacted complaint, a paragraph described being excluded from meetings after reporting inappropriate comments tied to Marcus. The next line mentioned pressure to resolve matters privately to preserve team cohesion. Chloe stared at the screen until the words doubled. That exact phrase had been used on her by HR. She stopped moving. Even her hand went still on the mouse. "Say it," Tessa said gently. Chloe heard herself breathe before she heard her own voice. "It's the same language." Pause. A click sounded in Chloe's earbuds. SFX, voice memo, Tessa had sent a recording. An old memo. HR, calm voice. Polished tone. Preserve trust. Avoid escalation. Cultural disruption. Private resolution. Chloe pressed a fist to her mouth. The reaction came late and ugly. Not tears. Not yet. A hot, humiliated laugh. They built a script. "One woman at a time," Tessa said. "Isolate her. Make her doubt what happened. Offer severance. Wrap it in confidentiality. Marcus stays clean because HR speaks for the company." Chloe looked across her table at the termination folder. It no longer felt thin. It felt connected. Deliberate. She dragged the 3 files into a new folder and named it Pattern. Then she opened her report again and pulled up the metadata, dates, headers, routing. If there was a script, there was also a sequence. And sequences could be proved. Before dawn, Chloe turned her kitchen table into a caseboard without the cork. Her termination folder sat beside her laptop. Tessa's files were open in careful rows. The apartment held that thin city hush before traffic began. Coffee hissed into the mug. Her hands were steady now, which almost frightened her more than the shaking had. She had spent too long wanting the company to admit what it had done. Wanting one decent person inside to say the words plainly. This was retaliation. This was protection. This was a pattern. But companies did not confess. They translated harm into policy language and called that truth. Tessa joined by video first, face gray in the pre-dawn light. A second woman came on audio only. Priya. Then a third window opened with an employment attorney named Elena Park, hair pinned up, legal pad ready. Chloe felt a childish urge to apologize for taking up space. She hated that reflex and did it anyway. "I know this may be nothing," she said. Elena cut in gently. "If it were nothing, HR would not have worked this hard to make each of you feel alone." That landed harder than comfort should have. Chloe looked down at her inbox. Her original complaint. Her follow-up. The silence after both. They began with dates. Not feelings. Not interpretations. Dates, routing, meeting times, severance offers, access shutoffs. Elena asked for exact wording. Tessa read from her agreement. Priya found an old screenshot. Chloe pulled up the metadata from her report and shared her screen. "There," she said, too quickly. "See that forward?" Elena leaned toward the camera. "Send me the header." Chloe did. The attorney was quiet for a beat. Then she said, "Your complaint was flagged to legal on a Tuesday." Chloe heard her own breath catch. Tessa was already counting. "You were fired Friday." 3 days later, Priya said. No one spoke. The silence was not confusion. It was recognition settling into place. Chloe laughed once, sharp and ugly. "So I was stupid. I kept thinking they just needed time." "That's not stupidity," Elena said. "That's what process is designed to make you believe." The words cracked something open. Chloe felt tears rise and got angry at them immediately. She swiped them away like evidence she did not want on record. Elena gave them next steps. Preserve devices. Export emails. No more calls without records. Then she asked a different question. "Has anyone spoken to a journalist?" Tessa said no. Priya said absolutely not. Chloe said, "I know someone who covers labor. We met once after a panel." Then, defensive, "I'm not trying to become a story." "You already are one," Tessa said. "The choice is whether they write it for you." Chloe stared at the draft email for a full 10 seconds. Breathed before the decision to go public. The city outside began to wake. She clicked on her recorder. Then she hit send. By noon, the reporter had called twice, then sent a subject line Chloe could not stop staring at, request for comment before publication. Her phone began to tremble across the kitchen table and did not really stop. Slack screenshots. Calendar invites. A severance clause with language so familiar it made her skin go cold. Tessa forwarded one. Priya sent another. A fourth woman Chloe had never met wrote, "I heard you might understand." The story went live at 2:17. Not as a whisper. Not as a vague item. Names. Dates. Internal emails. A line from legal noting exposure if the complaint and termination appeared connected. Chloe read that sentence 3 times, pulse hammering in her throat. Days after legal flagged her report, she had been fired for cultural fit. There it was in public now, stripped of euphemism. Retaliation. News alerts stacked over each other until the screen blurred. Thornton Group executive accused of pattern of harassment cover-up. Former employees describe HR pressure and NDA silence. Board reviewing claims after corroborated accounts emerge. Chloe laughed once, a hard cracked sound that did not feel like relief yet. Then she snapped at her sister for asking if she had eaten. "I'm fine." She was not fine. Her hands shook so badly she dropped her water glass in the sink. The company statement arrived 40 minutes later. It used all the careful words she expected. We take concerns seriously. We are committed to a respectful culture. Marcus Thornton has been placed on administrative leave pending an independent investigation. Chloe read it aloud to Tessa over speaker. Administrative leave, Tessa said flatly. They still write like he tripped over a rug. But beneath the statement, the pressure was shifting. A board member had resigned from a non-profit panel that afternoon. An employment attorney was posting excerpts from the article. Former staff were commenting in cautious bursts, saying only, "This tracks," and "I thought I was the only one." Then Chloe's former manager called from a number she almost ignored. "I can't talk long," he said. "You never could," Chloe answered, sharper than she meant. A breath. Fair. Papers rustled on his end. HR is telling people your termination was performance-related. That won't hold now. Because it wasn't true. I know. His voice dropped. The board wants documents. People are preserving messages. Marcus is not controlling this anymore. For one dangerous second, Chloe wanted his apology more than she wanted the truth. It flared up hot and childish. Say you failed me. Say you chose him. But all he said was, "I should have done more." It landed late. Messy. Not enough. Still, she closed her eyes and let herself feel the tiny release of hearing someone inside finally stop lying. Another alert lit the room. Thornton placed on leave amid retaliation claims. Chloe sat very still. The city noise outside faded under the storm of notifications, the distant churn of broadcast audio, the sharp little clicks of cameras from clips playing on mute. Marcus had not fallen all the way. Not yet. But he had lost the clean cover of inevitability. And once people see a pattern, they start looking for the hands that kept drawing it. Chloe did not turn on the television. She let the headlines arrive in fragments instead. Push alerts. Group texts. Half-muted clips she refused to open with sound. Marcus Thornton had been placed on leave. Retaliation claims were under review. It should have felt clean. It did not. Her apartment was too quiet for victory, and the quiet made room for every ugly step it had taken to get here. She sat cross-legged on the rug with her laptop half shut and her termination folder beside her like a dare. The city outside had softened into evening. Tire hiss. A siren far off. Pipes ticking in the wall. Her tea had gone cold an hour ago. She reached for it anyway, swallowed, made a face, and set it down harder than she meant to. "So that's it," she said to no one. The words came out sharp, almost mocking. As if she were catching herself wanting too much. Her phone buzzed again. Not another reporter. Not Tessa. Not one of the women in the thread that had grown all day, then slowed into exhausted gratitude. The sender line was unfamiliar. No name she recognized. A private address. No signature visible in the preview. Her first thought was defensive and stupid. Great. Another crank. Another person who wanted her to perform the worst month of her life for their curiosity. She almost turned the phone face down. Then she saw the subject line. Her lungs stopped halfway through a breath. Same template language as your severance. She stared at it until the screen dimmed. Then she tapped it awake with a trembling thumb. Her own reflection flashed back at her for a second in the black glass. Tired eyes. Hair still pinned up from the morning. A mouth set too hard. The message remained unopened. Just the subject line. Just enough. Same template language as your severance. That phrase reached backward through everything. The separation agreement HR slid across the table. The smiling legal euphemisms. The clause wording Tessa had repeated from memory, almost verbatim, before sending screenshots. The little sterile architecture built around women so each one would think she was alone in it. Chloe put the phone down on the floor. No. She picked it back up at once. Her pulse had become a blunt knock in her throat. She wanted to be calm. She wanted to act like someone who had learned the system and moved carefully now. Instead, she stood too fast, knocked her cold mug, and caught it against her knee before it spilled. Jesus, she whispered, angry at the room, angry at herself for still being this easy to rattle. Another buzz followed, this time from the same sender. A second email. No preview text. Just a forwarded attachment icon. Folder. She closed her eyes. Took one deep breath. Held it until her chest hurt. Marcus had lost his cover. That was true. But this was something colder. Someone else had known the language. Someone else had approved it, polished it, reused it. Maybe protected him. Maybe built the mechanism and taught everyone else to call it culture. Chloe sat back down slowly. The rug pressed rough against her bare ankle. Her thumb hovered over the message again, not opening it yet, as if that small delay could preserve one final second of the world she already understood. Outside, a horn sounded and was gone. Inside, the phone lit her face in the dim room. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Sometimes the truth does not arrive like rescue. Sometimes it comes as one more folder. One more proof that the damage was organized. If you have ever waited for relief and found a deeper layer instead, you know this feeling. The night is quieter now, but Chloe is not done listening.